ladies and gentlemen, you have heard so much on the stage today. You've heard experts, you've had panel discussions. There is one more panel discussion as we wrap up this fabulous conference today. And what I'm so absolutely enthused about, and I have attended thousands of conferences in my life, there is no drop-off rate in this conference. This room is as full right now as it was at 9 o'clock this morning. Well done to all of you. But I think it's time that we handed the stage over to two people in the audience. Because I've got a book. I haven't written a book. Everyone else has written a book. I haven't written a book. It's called The Great Run. It's by Braam Malherbe. He is one of our speakers on the panel. And our computer has selected two people. John Sefolo, where are you, sir? John, where are you? Come, here. Oh, I was hoping I wasn't going to come up here now, okay? All right, and the other one is Mali Mashinini. Mali, where are you? Are you with us? Come, my friend. They have no idea what's going to happen. John, I'd like to give you a copy of this book. But before you do that, from JSE Brokers, you've got to take this microphone because we've all learned today about self-confidence, okay? We've learned about seizing the moment. You tell me what makes a great leader. Mali, you tell me what makes a great leader. And by show of applause, one of you will walk away with the book. Go.
Hi, everybody.
Don't look at me. I'm not helping.
Hi, everybody. Okay, my name is John. Jeremy got me off guard. But anyway, for one to be a great leader, you have to be perseverance. You have to be focused. I mean, to be focused, and you have to have a good plan, and then stick to your goals. Have goals anyway. Stick to your goals, and then you will achieve them. Don't let anything distract you. Focus to what you have planned for, and then you'll become a great leader.
Thank you, John. That's fantastic. Well done. Excellent. Okay. Mali, it's your turn.
Okay.
Remember, in life, there can only be one winner.
Okay. Yes, I believe that leadership is influenced by demonstration. Where you demonstrate not only talking about leadership, but you demonstrate what you want the people that you lead to follow you. Equipping people to realize and to release their potential. So that is leadership.
Thank you very much, Mali. Those of you who think that John is the winner, say yes. Those of you who think Mali is the winner, say yebo. There you go. John, don't be too upset. In fact, Braam, where are you? Come here. For God's sake, man, give this man a book. Have you got another book? There we go. We'll get you one, okay? There you go. Gentlemen. Okay, we're just doing a deal here. Shush. Okay, there you go. Phone the man. You don't have to go. You're here. You've arrived. Don't have to go back. That's it. You can go. Yeah. No, you can go. Absolutely. Phone him. Get a book, okay? Braam, you're not going to get two introductions, my friend. Just the one introduction. You're on the stage. Please, ladies and gentlemen, can I also call onto the stage Pearl Thusi, are you with us? Everybody knows Pearl. Up you come. Pearl, I don't mind which direction you take onto the stage. You can sit wherever you want. Preferably here, next to me. Thank you very much indeed. Seriously, I would rather sit next to you than Dr. Danny Jordaan. Danny, up you come. Danny, that was your cue. Thank you very much indeed. Maponyana, are you with us? we have room for one more. Jimmy Nevis, are you with us? That's where you're sitting. Thank you very much indeed. Folks, what a pleasure as we wrap up what has been a hugely successful conference today. And what I want to talk to you about in the remaining 45 minutes or so is I want to talk to you about the wisdom that you've gathered. We spoke to a group of people a little earlier who were under 30. They were inspirational. They had a clear vision as far as they were concerned. They were very excited about their careers. You've all got, to a greater or lesser extent, established careers. Some of you are still climbing. Some of you, like Danny Jordaan, has scaled great heights as far as sport is concerned in this country. So what I want to talk to you, and Jimmy, let me start with you because you're at the end.
Yeah.
When did you realize, or when are you starting to realize that you have achieved some degree of success, some sort of leadership? When did you reach a crossroads?
You know, I think you never truly, I mean, I don't like to think about that. I never think about the achievements or, you know, the nominations or awards or things that are relative to my industry. Just because I think if you have to, or if you actually take time to do that, it can be quite an emotional process because this industry has so much hustle, so much personal input, so many long hours. And yeah, you know, I don't like to think about it too much because, you know, I like to, I'm always pushing towards just achieving more in my life. But I think, excuse me, I'm a bit nervous here.
How can you be nervous? You're a singer. You
I
deal with
don't,
audiences.
it's the microphone. I feel like it's the Janet Jackson microphone. I don't know.
And you're worried about a wardrobe malfunction.
Ish, man. But yeah, you know, I think for me, it's not about the achievement, really. You know, I'm all about the passion, and that's what drives me. You know, when there are long nights and I've run out of coffee and I've run out of sleep and I have a deadline, it's the passion that pushes me. You know, so the achievements are great and they come afterwards, but for me, it's the passion. That's why I do what I do.
Dr. Danny Jordaan, you have done an enormous amount for this country. You are really a national hero to many of us in this room who are passionate about football. Let me ask you, 5 years on after the World Cup, how do you still sustain the passion?
Well, I was just looking around me and I said, I think I'm the only 1970 model of the youth.
Sorry, Danny.
Oh, two 1970 models of the youth. And I think my life was driven by, and I was fortunate. Sometimes it's fortunate to be born under apartheid because when we were growing up then, when I got to university and met with people like Steve Biko and so on, we had in our mind, it created the kind of South Africa that we want. A non-racial, democratic, non-sexist South Africa. And the leadership of that time, and Mandela expresses that. One of the things, you need conviction. You need commitment. And nobody expresses it better than Mandela when he says, I am committed to having a society in which all of us are free. I fought against black domination, I fight against white domination. This is an ideal that I cherish and for which I'm prepared to die. Now, in terms of a leader to say, I believe so much in pursuing whether the creation of a company, to be successful as a singer, to wherever you want to be, that is the first thing. Be committed and work with conviction. Otherwise, it's not going to work. The second thing, at that time when you commit to a liberation struggle, the only thing is certain, you're going to prison or you're going to die. Those things are guaranteed. Freedom was not guaranteed. But we believed enough that notwithstanding the fact that there were tanks and guns and whatever, one day we'll be free. We've achieved that. But the idealism The idea that this society is going to be a society that is truly a society where people have opportunities, and that it's not a society of insiders and outsiders, but that we commit to one another to create opportunities for all. And the challenges is still with you, and I'm very happy to be here today to say those things that we were in the street for in the 70s and the 80s, we've not achieved yet. We've now passed the baton on to you to say, you have a responsibility not to listen to naysayers, not to listen to those who are defeatists. This country has seen greater challenges than what we have now. And in business, create an opportunity not for yourself, but for society also. Create space that we can all live together in harmony. And that's the challenge. And when you come back to the World Cup 2010 World Cup, the same. What did people say? FIFA started in 1904. We were awarded the World Cup in 2010. That's 106 years later. Now, when we started bidding, they said it was impossible. Like they said, it's impossible to defeat apartheid. It's impossible that you can get the World Cup to an African continent. And who were the naysayers? And it's strange. It's not people from Europe. When I go to Europe and I address them as to why I want to host the World Cup, they were supportive. When I go to the neighboring countries, and I'm not going to mention them, they say, well, you know, you're up against Germany and England. Do you really think, you know? And so it's very often the people that sits next to you, that is a weight that pulls you down, that says no. And very often the people in most unlikely corners, other people say, you know, go for it. We are behind you. And so those are I'm sure, the challenges that confront you. Don't listen to naysayers. Well, look what happened to Dempsey. And in Dempsey's case, his organization decided that they must vote for South Africa. And when he met his friends and had a few bottles of whiskey and they were playing piano and singing together, the next day, he could not carry out the mandate of his association to vote for us, South Africa. What did he do? He abstained. And when I saw him again, he says, no, but I didn't vote against you. But he didn't vote for us either.
Yeah, I mean, that was a complete cop-out. Danny, I am going to move on.
That's why I want just to say to them, don't be Dempseys. Face the challenges. Don't cop out. Never be Dempseys.
If you're tweeting, that's hashtag don't be Dempseys. Okay. Paul Thusi, let me ask you this question. Danny gave us a very important contextualization as far as success and leadership is concerned. Someone who is not a vintage of a childhood of the 70s, how important is the historical context in your success? How often do you look back and say, this is what has been laid before me, I have something to live up to?
Good evening, everybody.
Is it evening already?
Well, good afternoon. First of all, I just want to say I'm in a panel with Mr. Danny Jordaan. Mama, I made it. I think for me, you know, just to keep it as quick as I can, we have a lot more convenience in our industry as young people. You know, you can get a car to drive to an audition. You have many races in the audition. You know, it's not just like you're stuck into one particular category. I can live wherever I choose, etc., all of that. So in that case, when I speak to the older generation of actors and actresses, they would walk 5 kilometers to an audition to earn 2 rand or 3 rand or whatever, or for free sometimes, just because they loved what they did. And for me, that passion drives me when I look back, and when I look at how convenient it is for me to just work and follow my passion. I have no excuse. So whenever I find excuses or I create excuses or I'm handed excuses because people think that I can't achieve something, then I do believe, like, no, girl, you don't have an excuse. Think about what has happened before. Just in the context of entertainment, you don't have an excuse, so don't allow any excuses to come in your way.
Braam, Malherbe, having said that, in your particular endeavor running the Great Wall of China, you couldn't look back, could you? You had to keep looking forward. And I'm not being facetious. Yours was a forward journey the whole time. That's important as well for leaders, is that you've got to keep looking forward. You cannot take too much of a rear view perspective of the world.
Jeremy, yes. If I go back to looking at my past, I was a very passionate teenager, always believed in big dreams and so on, and I just wanted to be successful. And my definition of success, with, as you said, wisdom, has changed somewhat. Success for me, and I think for most people, it's driving a fancy car. Nothing wrong with that, wearing the Armani suits and so on. And I was relatively successful at a young age. 27, I had paid for homes and whatever, but my ego was so big I couldn't get through the door. And in 1984, after my father had got divorced from my mom after 30 years, he suffered a stroke. He lived with me. I'm the eldest of 5 kids. I had to take him to the bathroom every day. His dignity was shattered. And in 1984, I was declared insolvent. So I had everything, and then I lost everything. So in that situation, I had to learn from my past. And I think the significant difference is exactly that word. It's significance. Success to significance. And I went off to a mountain range in the Western Cape after my fiancée left me a month after that to commit suicide. That was 1984. And something happened in nature, and it's a long story, so I won't say it now. But I decided to practice what I call the gift of giving, of putting back. So when I was asked to run the Great Wall of China, and Professor Tim Noakes said it's physically impossible, can't be done, you can't run 100 marathons a day, it's just not possible. That was a gauntlet to me because I do a lot of talk and work with the youth, disadvantaged youth, and I say to them, there is no excuse. There is nothing that is impossible. And if, in fact, you take that word impossible and you separate it after the second letter, it says, I'm possible. And for me, when I work with the youth, it's about moving away from a culture, not just in South Africa, but it's pervasive around the world. I was in America and Australia last year. Move away from blame and move away from entitlement. And when we do that, a shift takes place. So when I ran the Great Wall, it was simply to make a difference in other people's lives. So I chose Operation Smile. These are kids that are born with cleft palates and cleft lips. And since then, the Great Wall of China, 84 kids got to smile for the first time while we were running the Great Wall. And subsequent to that, David Greer and myself, 1,700 kids smile for the first time. And it's not, I need the pat on the back. It's sleeping well at night, knowing you're leading a life of significance.
Maps, let me ask you this question. One of these speakers earlier today spoke about something called the slash career. And the slash career is a person who multitasks, who has more than one job. It's been interesting listening to people raising questions in the audience today saying, I am this and I am also this. I look at you and you're a model, you're an actor, you're a TV presenter, you're a creative consultant, you're an entrepreneur. Talk to me a little bit about leadership and priority. How do you set priorities in your busy life?
First of all, good afternoon. It's incredible to be part of this panel, and thank you all very much for willing to listen to me.
And humility is important too.
Well, look, I am part of a generation of what people would call slashies. Every day you meet people now who are this slash that. It's very hard, or it's very rare that you'll find someone who's just one thing, who's part of this generation. And it's also very hard to find that loyalty of being at a job for more than 20, 30 years as well. It seems that a lot of guys are coming in and out, 2 years at a job, 3 years at a job, starting something new, always trying to stimulate themselves. And I thought if I was going to pursue what I wanted to pursue, I wanted to be able to be in control of what I was doing and try to be my own boss as much as possible. And I found myself falling into fashion, media, and entertainment for my love of people, creativity, speaking. I think speaking was a big thing for me because growing up, From the first words I ever uttered until the age of about 12, I had a very severe stutter. I'm not sure if anyone's ever seen King's Speech, but that's pretty much exactly how I was. And so that was my first biggest achievement, and being an orator was one of the things I really wanted to pursue in what I did. And then I ended up doing everything I'm doing now. I'm doing TV presenting, acting, modeling, script writing, fashion design, creative consulting, image consulting. I'm an MC, I'm a voiceover artist, I'm an entrepreneur. And you know, it all comes down to time management. I remember being in varsity, and we had a bit of a tricky family situation, and that required me to really work my hardest to be able to make it through that journey. And I was working and I was at varsity at the same time. People have a preconceived notion because of any family links that everything was easy, but it wasn't.
Let me ask you this question. How difficult is it to say no?
Very difficult. But I think as you get to know yourself better and you know exactly where your place is, and you know your value and your worth and where you're going, then saying no becomes a lot easier. Because you're saying no for all the right reasons. You know when you're being taken advantage of, you know when you're being empowered, and you know when you're taking a step that is going to lead you closer to your journey. And you know, I was taught growing up by my father, he always said, you know, there's no such thing as impossible, it just takes longer than planned. But when you go to bed at night, you need to make sure that you're a step closer from how productive you've been in that day when you go to sleep than when you woke up that morning. So productivity and making the most of every single second is something that's very important to me. And I've also chosen the things I'm doing right now, not only because I fall into them, but also because they're interlinked. TV presenting helps the acting helps the modeling, vice versa. If you have any speaking skill when it comes to that, you can probably go into emceeing. If you have a decent voice, you can probably go into voiceovers. If you have some sort of sense of creativity and a good conduct of any type of language, then you can probably go into writing. And I'm just always on a mission of the pursuit of quiet excellence, you know, diligently working away while things speak for themselves, and slowly being behind the scenes or in front, but doing so that you don't have to be speaking too loudly from top of the rooftops to get any recognition.
All of us in this world need to be inspired in one way or another. This is just a quick one to all of you, and Jimmy, I'll start with you. Apart from Nelson Mandela, okay? Apart from your mother or your father.
Hey.
Who inspires you? And
you
why?
know, I'd have to say, hey, that's a tough one. You just took away my parents, man. But, you know, I think...
So if it's your parents, tell us why.
Look, I mean, I grew up in a very community-orientated household, you know, my dad being a pastor. So we were very involved with my community, with the people, you know, especially in the flats area, because I grew up and I still live in Athlone, which isn't the most affluent area in Cape Town. But yeah, you know, I think it's that sense of community that inspires me, you know, when you see how much they do for each other. Yes, there's a lot of crime, there's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of bad, but there's also a lot of good. And amidst all the bad and the crazy, it's nice to look at the people in my community, in my neighborhood, and see, you know, the little victories that they have and the little victories that they share. And, you know, I think just my parents as well, my mother being a very driven person, she's a partner in a pharmaceutical company today, started at the bottom. And so I'm very inspired by them. They always allowed me to have the freedom to do what I want.
Danny Jordaan, what about you?
Yeah.
Well, look, I've worked long with Madiba, and I must mention, in spite of your protests. But, you know, we must never underestimate the South African people. The South African people really is an inspiration for all the things that's gone on in this country. They have a strong sense of justice. There's a strong sense of forgiveness. People use Ubuntu and so on, but it's real. It's real. And I see that when our under-17 team qualified for the World Cup, you saw what happened at the airport. When people are very judgmental against individuals who've done wrong, you see how society rallies to say, no, he's our son. So you don't find this in many countries, and I was fortunate to travel through many countries during the bid phase, almost 200 countries, and I've seen those societies. We must never underestimate our own people, our own country, and our own society. We condemn very many times our own people, but this country and its people are very, very special.
I think that is a very inspirational answer. Pearl, what about you?
I swear I'm not lying, but I wanted to say my country, the people. So now I have to re-strategize. I just want to say, for me now, to kind of change my answer is, I've decided at a very young age.
Well, you don't have to change your answer. If that's what inspires you, that's fantastic.
No, but I want to kind of say, for me, role modeling has, I've decided to change that. I've decided to use a lot of people in my life that do inspire me and model something specific in them instead of a whole person, because we're not perfect. And I really dislike it when heroes fall and they are slashed apart because people expected perfection from them, which is really unfair. And I'll just say my mom's passing, in fact, inspired me, because it inspired me to die as poor as I possibly can be. And by that I mean my grave must have no dream, must have no ability left within me that I should have given to the world.
That's a great answer. Braam?
Jeremy, I must say...
It just gets more and more difficult, doesn't it?
Well, it's not that difficult for me. It's my son. I was one of the guys that put the hand up at the back of a single father that raised my 26-year-old my son on my own. But having said that, I also want to say that he also helped raise me. And how compromises had to be made, and the many lessons he taught me. And I'll never forget, as a 17-year-old boy, he gave me a letter at Cape Town International Airport en route to Beijing. And in that letter, I had to ask him prior to me leaving. I called him Tiger. His name's Benjamin. I said, Tiger, do you know that maybe I'm not going to come home? And we had to sign legal documents where he would go and live if I died. And that's a heavy ask for a 17-year-old boy that you've raised. And he wrote me this amazing letter. And at the end of the letter, there was a little caption. And inside the envelope was a little pebble, which I have in my hotel room here. It goes wherever I go. And this is a 17-year-old boy. It's his lucky stone. He's a very good artist. And when he used to draw, he'd play with this pebble. And he said, Dad, please come home safely. Keep my lucky stone safe. And every time you touch it, remember how much you have to be grateful for. And I touch that stone every morning and every evening. And that came from a young person. And the disillusionment in adults today is something we need to shift. And the youth are shifting it. The youth are turning around saying, listen, this system doesn't work. So what can I do differently? And it's having the sense of humility and gratitude that I actually receive from raising my son.
Mumps, just before we get to you, okay, hard act to follow, my friend. I'd like to raise the house lights at this point because we're scheduled to finish our conference at 5 o'clock. I know that you're going to be angry unless you have an opportunity to talk to our panel members. It'll give our microphone people a chance to get into shape. Let's go with you, Mumps, first of all, on inspiration, and then let's get some questions from this fantastic audience. Off you go.
I think besides my parents and, as you say, Mandela, who's the very obvious one, I remember from when I was very young, and I mentioned that I had that stutter, and there was so much of the big world to explore, and I had great stage fright. I mean, I remember I'd speak to my mom, and I wouldn't be able to say the words, I wouldn't be able to finish a sentence, and that would frustrate me, but it would also frustrate my mom, and she would say, "Buwa," which means just talk. And I'll try, and she just talk. And I always had such admiration for people who could go up on stage and talk to wide audiences and have a story and inspire lots of people. And there was a particular kid in particular, beg pardon, and he made me realize that firstly, life's short, and that it's really it's really something you need to find within yourself to speak about, to be able to talk clearly. It's something that actually helped me lose my stutter along the way. It also taught me that if you believe in something and you work hard at something and you love what you do, then the pathway along the way is going to be a lot greener. And I'm keeping it very short and brief, and I want to go with this a very long way, but for me it's very simple. I've idolized him since I was very young, and I wish he lived for another many years because he could have inspired the world even more, and that's Nkosi Johnson.
Those of you who remember him, an astonishing young man, he was about long time, 10 years ago, more, that he died of HIV/AIDS. Folks, we're going to start on that side of the room because you've all had enough, okay? Anybody on this side? Because there's a gentleman over here with a white shirt on, I think, and glasses. There we go. Microphone over there quickly. We've been very prejudicial against this. There we go. Folks, again, as we start to move towards 5 o'clock, please can I ask you, no keynotes, quick question, and if you direct it either at the panel or an individual member. Off you go.
The name is Gracious Munyeke to Dr. Jordaan. The question is, as a leader, you built stadiums before 2010. You did an incredible job. Afterwards, the media criticizes there's not enough attendance at the stadiums. You have to go back to the office, ensure that your team is going to face the government, be it, and then do that with inspiration. How do you go about doing that?
Danny?
You want to know how I'm going to fill all the stadiums? Well, what we're doing at the moment, and this is my last job, is to build winning teams. All of them, from under 17 to the senior national. And we've started. Incredible success under 17 team. People of this country want to support winners, not just country. Go and see in Europe. The stadiums of Barcelona and Real Madrid is full, and Atletico Bilbao is empty. The stadiums of Chiefs and Pirates is full, and I'm not going to mention other, just in case it's your team. But people want to go and support winners. And your responsibility is to contribute to that winning culture in our country. And whether you're a singer, small business, big business, win wherever you are. So it's a long journey but that is my last job, to have all of our teams, winning teams, to get people supporting winning teams in football, and to have SAFA to be a 1 billion plus business. And the day we make that announcement, I am retiring.
And interestingly, Danny, we all hope that you're then not in the job very long, if you get the irony.
Yes, it's not too long. There is a clear timeline. Yeah. The clear timeline. I'm already in the departure lounge, so you don't have to worry.
Anybody on the side of the room over here? This segment here? Nobody? All right, let's move on. Over here. Anybody down here? Okay? Nobody. Over there. Okay? There we go. Someone who's got their both hands and feet up. There we go. Okay.
Hello, my name is Sivu, and I'm a slashie, just like Maps. And I'd like to find out from Maps and from Pearl, with all the things that you do and all the different talents and skills that you have, how do you price yourself? So when someone asks for a quotation, how do you justify the amount that you put on that quotation?
Good question. I thought you were going to ask how many hours sleep they get a night.
Oh gosh, I hate starting. I couldn't do that because I'm a creative. I'm not super business-minded, although I am attempting to learn. So I got myself a really good manager, and she has put together a strategy to make sure that happens. She does a lot of work with corporate companies, and she's applied a similar model to myself as a brand, although I hate using that word, but as a brand. So there are particular things you can look at that are measurable. So the shows you do, how many viewers and what type of listenership does it have. Your Twitter followers, your Instagram followers, the activity that happens on your social media is actually all measurable now, and that can be used to price who you are. There's actually even sites online that are used to price you, to give you a very practical answer and not get all emotional.
How many Twitter followers do you have?
I think I have 330,000 odd something followers.
Danny, how many Twitter followers have you got? Let's move on. Are you are you on Twitter?
You have to ask the media officer in my office.
Okay. He's got lots of Twitter followers.
But just to continue on from my answer.
How many Twitter followers have you got? Mabs, the question is directed at you.
It's, I think, just over 50,000.
Okay, that's not too bad. Braam?
Still small, only about 10,000, but I've only been on it for a short period.
He's only been on it for a day.
At Braam, Malherbe. Thanks.
Jimmy?
We've got about 44,000 now. So.
Okay, you were going to ask the question about, you want to answer the question about, hang on, you're going to ask how many have I got?
Yes.
How many do you think I've got?
I think you've got 1 million.
I have 1 or 2. The question about mags on media, go and check. Mubs, you were going to answer the question about pricing.
Yes, I mean,
Okay.
if there's one awkward conversation you want to have, it's that one. I hate it, and you never want to be the one to directly speak about what your fee is or what the price is. And all those guidelines that Pearl gave you are definitely what things go along with now. But also, if you think you're worth a certain price and you can deliver on it, then great. But don't try and overprice yourself and then completely underdeliver, because then you shoot yourself in the foot.
Entrepreneurs have got to understand the value of their own worth. I disagree with you. I think you're perfectly entitled to use the word brand. Many people, particularly in the creative industries, don't understand that, Mums.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. And that's why, as I say, if you really feel that you can provide this, then you should charge that.
Can I just...
Of course.
You know, because I label myself as an artist, so I am a bit of a hippie, etc. So when you put brand on me, which is why I had to hire this lady, and she's really good at delivering and expressing and communicating that, I want to be seen as an artist, you know, not just as a brand, but that is important, and I accept it grudgingly.
All right. We've answered over there. Let's move on to the next quadrant. Just find someone for us. Just find someone.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sivu Poro. I represent Spark Schools, which is a network of schools in Johannesburg. We're the first blended learning model in South Africa, but I'm also a slashy. I run a PTY Ltd, which is called Dynamic Sports Coaches. And Dr. Jordaan, this is a question for you. For the past 2 years, I've been trying to secure the Minister of Sport so that he can actually accredit our program, which is to hire certified coaches to coach physical education in schools, which is actually funded by the schools. So it's been a difficult process to get through that. And just to touch on what Braam has said, when a system doesn't work, how does a person in a situation like mine, I'm a school leader, but I actually run a PTY Ltd for the benefit of the country, and I can't get through one person who's actually supposed to open the door.
I think we've got the question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly rephrase it. I don't think it's fair to ask Danny or Don to open the door for you. But what I am going to say, and a question to all of you, and Danny, you start off with, how do you, when you're a young person who is ambitious, who is aspirational, how do they kick the door in? Because that's effectively what this young man here needs to do. What does he need to do? Give him some advice.
Well, clearly is, you see, what normally happens, you come to this conference, and then all of those with aspiration, they try and pull you on this thing. No, there is SAFA house there. Go and knock there, and don't take no for an answer. Stay there until you get what you want. And I think that applies to, don't try and block the minister when he comes and speak here. Go and see him in his office. And don't, if he says, I'm busy today, forced to go. Find him at a time and space where he can really apply his mind and listen with interest. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time.
And if it's a great idea, it will find the traction that it deserves. Jimmy, you were going to say something.
Yeah, no, also, to add on that, I think people need to remember that there's also no rules, you know, so you just need to be creative and kind of know what you want and go for it, keep going for gold, you know, because there are no rules. You can do whatever you want to do, so.
And just to reiterate what you're saying, you know, I always battled with this saying, it's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know, when I was growing up. And when I was about 11 or 12, I was thinking, so how do I solve this problem? And by the time I was 13, I realized that if you actually just keep knocking on those doors and pushing non-stop and working hard at what you're doing, then you will become the person that the who you know wants to know, because you're just so damn good and passionate about what you're doing.
Pearl, you're in one of the most difficult jobs you can get, because it's competitive in the entertainment and the creative business. It's bitchy, it's backbiting. It can be dreadful at times. How did you kick the door in?
I had to wait a long time to get where I am. So luckily during that time, I was able to realize that I need to be prepared. A lot of people want opportunities, but they're not prepared. Use that time. There's a reason it hasn't happened at that moment. Make sure that every second, every day, every month, you are getting prepared for that dream. You can't just wait for it. And then another thing, a lot of people like to ask. You know, I had a very awkward conversation with a beggar once, and I said to him, why are you asking? Why don't you give me 5 rand? In fact, here's 100 rand, go buy me this at the store. Or I gave him mine, I said, go buy it, and then I will make sure I pay for your service. When he came back, I said, you see, you do have something to offer. Stop asking and start offering your services. And then at that point in time, somebody will open the door, because nobody wants somebody who's always asking for stuff. Somebody also wants to receive an idea, an opportunity, money, whatever it might be. Offer something great. Know what your value is.
I would go on to say that we've all got great ideas all the time, but that's a diminished currency unless you can actually make those ideas work. Yeah. I'm going to take one more question, okay? And I'm going to look for that side of the room, okay?
Oh, come on, Jeremy.
Oh, how disappointing. Guys, how many more? We'll take 3 or 4 more questions.
Not even
yeah,
a question.
Fair enough, okay?
Thank you, thank you.
Danny's probably got to go to Brazil or something. So take a couple more questions, okay, and then we are going to wrap it up. Who's got the mic? Literally, we cannot see you.
Can you not see me?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Celine Ndumo. Okay. And hello, baby.
Hey, honey.
It's not even a question. I think I would have done myself a major injustice if I didn't get up, Jeremy. And thank you for your grace. But I just wanted to say, first of all, TLC sponsors, thank you for this segment. I think for the first time, you've actually brought it home for me. I was here last year, and it's so inspirational to sit in front of a panel of people who are real and are doing it. So I'm highly inspired, number one. Number two, hello, Pearl. I know Pearl from the time she started her career, and I'm really inspired by how far you've come and the great works that you're doing. Maps, I met you 3 weeks ago. I'm not going to expose where, Wanderers Stadium, that's all I'm going to say. But I want to say thank you. You said, there's something that you said. You said something along the lines of nothing is impossible, but something about the timing being right.
It just takes longer than planned.
That's correct. And Paul, you just nailed it for me when you said preparation is key. And really the reason I needed to stand up was to inspire all of us in the room to say, it's so important to know who you are. And that's what I'm getting from today. When you know who you are, you know where you are going. Because you can only get the vision when you know who you are. And knowing who you are means being planted and being grounded in the one who sent you here. So my inspiration really is just to say thank you, TLC 2015. Thank you, Leadership 2020. We see the work that you're doing. We are highly inspired as a country. Mr. Jordaan, thank you for reminding us as well that we are so honored and privileged to belong to South Africa. And I say, Amandla.
Amanda.
I'm just wondering whether it's not possible for you to join our panel next year. I didn't say now, next year. 2016. 2016. Okay, well, guys, listen, it's up to you. A couple more questions, yes or no? Okay. Yes, okay. Yeah. All right, let's go to that quadrant there, please. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mandisa Gaba. I am in the process of starting an online resale and consignment store. And my friend over here is a fashion stylist. Her name is Pumidi. I just wanted to ask Mabs and Pearl, the entertainment industry is not known for punting education. And what we've heard today come up over and over again is the importance of education. And so I just wanted to know how the both of you feel about people pursuing careers in the entertainment industry as opposed to pursuing their education.
Do you want me to start this time?
Yep, go.
Please.
Look, I do think it's very, very important. I studied at Wits because I really wanted to get my degree. Apart from everything else I've ever achieved, that for me is my greatest achievement, which is graduating. I did a quadruple major at Wits, so it was imperative for me to get a very good education and to ensure that, that I've got that behind me. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, if you don't have that plan B when things don't work out because you haven't fully committed to everything that is required of someone to be able to make it in the industry, then you'll be putting yourself at a disadvantage by not studying. And I think it's very important that we all stress it. There are a lot of artists perhaps who say that they've dropped out and now look at them, but that's really not the way to go. And that's something personally I believe is not the way to go, because we should at every opportunity, because of the level of influence that any one big person in entertainment like Pearl with 300,000 followers, it's up to us to be able to put that at the forefront and say, listen, this is where we need to put our minds in order for the future to have any hope at all in the bigger sense. Because also, I mean, when you get to the entertainment industry, it's not all the glitz and glam that you think it's going to be. And there will be very hard times. And honestly, you come in and you possibly can go out as quick as you have come in. So there's always someone new, bigger, better looking, everything. So you need to have your education behind you and inspire yourself.
Oh, wow. To add on to everything he said, I completely agree. And I'm going to take a different stance just a little bit. For me, the definition of education is very important, because as much as my father opened his last book maybe in grade 2, he's taught me a lot. He's educated me about a lot. So what exact education are you looking for? Books are very important, granted, but I think we should never discredit, especially as Africans, the education that we once understood and knew as well, which is Ubuntu, understanding people, understanding environment, etc., etc. And then also, experience can never be discredited as well. There are a lot of people who, even though they haven't gotten an education, have done so much as well. And some people can't afford it. It could be anything. But if you can, go for it, do it, get your degree. You will need it. I'm trying to finish my BA in communication. However, if that wasn't able to work out for you, like I dropped out, I had a baby at the age of 19. She's now 7 years old. But here I am standing strong, because education comes in experience, listening to people in the industry, using mentorship. If you can't pay for it, or if you can't get it sponsored, etc., there's education all around you, and you need to find exactly what you need. Listen, learn, and work.
Well, let me say this to you. Daughters, they're very expensive. I have 2. Over there. Whoever's got the mic, literally we've got this bright light in our eyes.
Jeremy, also just, this man had his hand up first. You just missed him the first time, so I think you should get the next one.
Are you there? Okay.
The back.
Who's got the mic? Over there,
Okay,
at the back.
I've got
At the
the
back.
mic.
Go, just talk.
Okay, Jeremy. I think what I love about the fact that this panel is the last thing for today is the diversity. All of you guys are really successful because you've been able to embrace diversity, something I think I hold really dear to myself. And Jeremy, you know, you on Power. Are you the only white guy on Power? It is beautiful. That's my point. And all of you appeal to a broad demographic. Whoever wants to answer, how important is that to you? Because it's very important to me. So how important is that to you? That's my final question.
Anybody?
I think you've been quiet. You should go.
Okay. Rephrase the question for us.
Diversity is vital.
How important that is, and
yes,
how important that is in your DNA and in your makeup.
Yeah, it is vital to embrace change. In fact, Charles Darwin put it very succinctly. It is not the strongest nor the most intelligent that will survive. It is the one who most embraces change. And if we sit in our little glass houses and think that the world is going to change to suit me, we're sadly mistaken. It's what can you do differently that ultimately that's where your success comes from. I mean, I have 3 simple steps. Dream big, and it starts with a dream. Plan well, vital, going back to the education component, plan well and minimize risks, and that will guarantee your success.
All right.
Thanks, Tim.
Folks, it saddens me to say this, but literally we have a program that we've got to keep to, and I am going to call it a day.
We're in Africa, African time.
This is Jeremy time.
Hey.
Not Africa time. Okay. Panel members, can I just thank each and every one of you? Some of you I've met, some of you I haven't. I've known Danny for many, many years. Danny, you continue to inspire me. Pearl, I haven't met you before. You inspire me as well. Mubs, Braam, Jimmy, thank you very much indeed for sharing your time, your wisdom, and your insight. What a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed. I was going to, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, wrap things up. I was going to give the vote of thanks, but that has been done already so eloquently. I cannot add to that. I hope, in conclusion, that you have taken inspiration from the very beginning this morning to the end panel today. I thank you for coming, but there is more, okay? Those of you who want to continue the discussion, the networking is critical as you develop success and leadership. We invite you up for drinks at Assembly Room 2, and we'll give you about 10 or 15 minutes to get up there. Thank you very much indeed.